What's going on, Ambitious Vets? Welcome to episode number 7 of The Ambitious Vet with Marine Corps combat veteran and Lendit founder Andrew Adrian. Welcome to The Ambitious Vet. My name is Chris Hoffman, former Marine combat veteran turned passion-driven entrepreneur. Now we are here to dig into the trenches with today's top-performing military veterans that were once warrior-made but are now passion-driven, and thus this unlocking your secrets to living a more meaningful, fulfilling, and top-performing civilian life. Now, are you a veteran that's getting out of the uniform that's just motivated on figuring out how do you reach your full potential? Or maybe you're just someone that is trying to figure out how to leverage those strengths, those skill sets that you've gained on however many years you served, and learn how to monetize those out of the uniform, right? We call that personal branding out of the uniform. Or maybe you're just like I was when I got out, that I was just had a huge vision, but was just met with huge adversity and kind of falling on your face a little bit. Well, guys, the answer is the Veteran Empowerment Transition Group on Facebook. We have over 470 ambitious vets coming together with one end goal in mind right now, is how do we share the tools, resources, insights, and strategies on fulfilling on our passion-driven life out of the uniform. Guys, you guys are going to be able to meet up with any former guests on this show and future guests, and just get the networking done that creates opportunity and increase in your life. So guys, again, that's Veteran Empowerment Transition Tribe on Facebook. We look forward to seeing you there. So this week's guest is Andrew Adrian. He's a Marine veteran who served as an 1833 assault amphibious crewman and 50 caliber machine gunner. He spent some time at Fortinet, where he was program administrator and team lead for their veterans program in the United States and Canada. As team lead, he was responsible for writing and designing program material and establishing connections with government and private organizations to create awareness for military veteran employment in the tech field across over 100 plus organizations and companies. Now, in May of last year, he launched a company called Lendit, a mobile application website-based company in the sharing economy, kind of like an Airbnb or Uber, just really enabling us to lend or rent items for profit. Now, Andrew has a team of around 10 people, including 6 military veterans, and has raised over $110,000 in capital and have caught huge momentum while disrupting an industry in a world of convenience. Now, in Andrew's words, we intend to revolutionize the way people rent objects from a business, friend, or neighborhood by making it easy to keep track of your stuff and showing what's around and available near you. Guys, let's go ahead and dive right into with this Marine, shall we? All right, Andrew, brother, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, brother. Welcome to the Ambitious Vet.
No, I appreciate you having us. I really do.
Yeah, man. Absolutely, man. So before we go ahead and dig into the interview, tell me a little bit more about you, man. Let's know you, fill in the gaps, give us a personal tidbit of who you are as a person before we dig into this interview.
Yeah, well, I know we only got 30 minutes, so I'll try to keep it down a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So my dad was actually military as well, so moved around most of my life. So when people ask where I'm from, I just joke and say America, because I've been so many places, lived in Germany, Japan as well. So that helped, have an outside view of culture. Out of high school, I was straight A's. I was class president, did good in football. So anyway, not your typical guy to join the military. But I really didn't know what I wanted to do, to be honest. I've always wanted to serve. I have 4 brothers in the military as well. So military family. So I, youngest brother, so always wanted to serve. So yeah, I joined the Marine Corps. My dad was Air Force, so that was pretty interesting. And then did the 1833, and then I was for a deployment as a 50 cal machine gunner for convoy security. But then when I got out, like you said, I was really blessed. I actually met my boss on a plane, had a good conversation. And then I took the initiative and contacted him by email and just saying it was great talking to you. If you ever have any openings, let me know, because he was talking about cybersecurity, and I really didn't know what cybersecurity was at the time. Just saying it's great. And so he gave me a shot, and I got a job at Fortinet, and I helped develop their veterans program for the U.S. and Canada while going to SDSU. And then, as you said, in May, started my own company. But more about me, I just love living life, love surfing. I'm an avid surfer. That's one of the reasons that helped me think of Linda, because I have so many surfboards. Yeah, I'm really stoked to be here.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you, brother. And it's funny. It's funny how, like, even when we were talking before this, man, how you created opportunity, just being in the trenches, just being who you are in every single moment, man. Like finding the opportunity for Fortinet, just sitting in a plane, right? And being a jock, and then getting and joining the most elite fighting force. I think it goes hand in hand. Being a Marine and being a jock from high school, the best, right?
Yeah.
So, brother, you already kind of touched on it, man. But I want to hear more about your transition, man. Being a guy that is who you are now, which is growing an organization very quickly based on disrupting an industry, brother. I mean, you're doing some big things with Linda. We'll get more to that a little bit later. But I want to dig into your transition. Tell us, what had you start finding your purpose, your passion out of the uniform?
Mm-hmm. No, that's good. I think, one of the biggest things, I'd say to other veterans too in transition is you gotta make, life is what you make it. It really is. No one's going to do it for you. And that's just the reality. And so I guess, just like that whole meeting the guy in the plane, this is what I used to tell the vets when I was running that veterans program is, no one made me write him an email, right? No one made me contact him. I could have got off the plane and threw his business card away and say, nice guy. I'm sure all of us have those opportunities, but life's going to present opportunities in front of you, but it's up to you to take them. And so I'd say that, but I'd say my transition, I would say it was tough at first. Like any vet, it's a whole new world. You're used to a way of doing something, and then you get out. But I think one thing about myself that I've always prided about myself is taking that initiative and just not accepting average, that I wanted to excel. So I actually started applying to college a year and a half before I got out of the military. And I don't know if for other Marines, so for other Marines listening, there's a thing called the LSP program. It's Leadership Scholar Program. I got accepted to that. Only 100 veterans on the West Coast Marines got accepted on the West Coast, then got a guaranteed admission to SDSU. And so it's kind of funny. The reason I bring this up is, I'd have other vets be like, hey, I'm going to school. I'm like, oh, where are you going? They're like, University of Wisconsin. I'm like, oh, did you apply? And they're like, no, not yet. And I'm like, you got to do that a year before, and it's just people don't take the time to research how the process works. So I think that's one thing that really helped my transition, is just doing my research and establishing a goal and then figuring out how I needed to do that.
Wow. Yeah. There's a lot of golden grenades there, man, for sure. And really what I still hear in what you're saying, man, is not only did you assess and evaluate, but you executed, like you said. Like, no one told you to actually go out there and email that guy back, right? Like, you are a guy that assesses, kind of evaluates, but also you take action, man. And you just kind of go with the flow and you create your own opportunity, which is awesome, man. So we are getting some engagement on Facebook Live. I do see your comments, Ben. Thanks for joining. Christopher Harold, thanks for joining, guys. We're gonna do a 2-minute Q&A at the end. So guys, if you have questions for Andrew, go ahead and write them down, and we'll give you guys about a 2-minute window to kind of ask those live questions. All right, guys? Now, brother, going back, man, I mean, when you were getting out, did you find it that it was better to be resourceful, or was it utilizing your resources, and why?
I'd say it's a little bit of both. I think it's a healthy balance. But I would say, too, utilizing your resources, doing the research, looking into what's available to you, like back again to the LSP program, an amazing asset that a lot of Marines unfortunately don't know about. And there's all these assets that are available to us. And I think that's one of the biggest disconnects in the veteran community is, we have this tendency to say that there's not a lot of help or there's not all this stuff, but there is. It's just you have to find it, unfortunately. That connection is the hard part. I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, basically, I think being resourceful too is you got to, like you said, you got to make those opportunities happen and take those opportunities and recognize those opportunities. I think that's a big part. Is that I think a lot of vets don't really recognize an opportunity when it's in front of them. And one of my biggest advice that I tell people too is never close a door that you don't know what's on the other side, but don't walk through that door without knowing what you're getting into, so because you never know who someone else knows or what that opportunity could present. I mean, I met a guy on the plane, had a good conversation, talked about cybersecurity, ended up he was the global senior director for managed security services of the entire company, and ended up getting on his team, then helped develop the veterans program for the entire United States and Canada. Got to fly out, to the DC, to the Pentagon, got to meet with Microsoft headquarters, got to go meet members of parliament. I never would have imagined that conversation would turn into that, but I chose to look into it. And I think that's what I would really advise veterans to do.
Yeah. I would dig a little bit deeper in that, brother. And I would ask you, what is an opportunity in your book? How would you describe, because you were saying that you got to identify an opportunity. Definitely know what's through the door, but what would be an opportunity for you? What opportunity did you see whenever you sat down with that guy on that plane?
No, that's a great question. First, I would say to that too, is it depends on what your goal is. I think more importantly is establish your goal. And goals are going to change. That's okay. Right. But have an idea of where you want to go, right? If you're water rafting, right, and you're pointing where you want to go. You're not going to point at the water. You don't want to go in the water. You want to point where you're trying to go. Yep. So all I'm getting is that's definitely going to help you see those opportunities. So for me, when I was getting out, I knew I wanted my education, but I also knew I wanted a good job. My problem is I put a lot on my plate all the time because I really like it. I like to be busy. And when he told me about cybersecurity, it seemed interesting. And it just seemed, something that I would really like to learn more about. To be honest, when I wrote him, it was just trying to find out more. So I would just say, if anything piques your interest or you have the time to find out, why not? Because if you don't, then what changed? So so I guess if it piques your interest enough, you should always go forward to it and see what else that can result in. And also the big thing, you never know who you meet, how they could help you later in life or how they could hurt you. And so that's one thing I would say too, is just be very mindful of the people you engage with and how you engage with them and how you leave that relationship or continue that relationship.
Wow. Yeah, man. Again, a lot of golden grenades right there, man. Really what I hear and really what I'm hearing and what you're saying is like, man, you just got to get out there and you got to do the work, man. You got to go out there and figure it out. And I hear a lot of cost versus reward. Okay. What's the cost of this decision versus the reward?
Correct.
And if I don't take this action, where am I going to be at if I don't take it? If I do take it, where am I going to be if there's anything to lose? Kind of doing that rational, critical thinking that is important in the moment as opportunities come. Because for me, getting out of the Marine Corps, there was a lot of opportunity, but I wasn't clear on which one to take. And it was like content overload. A lot of resources thrown to me, but I didn't know which one to actually take and why. And I was just so used to this highly accountable Marine Corps, as we both know, on you being told what to do at each time and every second of every day, that it was kind of hard to rationalize, okay, what's important to me now, right? Mm-hmm. So that's awesome, brother. So what I want to kind of dig and transition before we get into this vision for Lend It is I want to ask you, man, I mean, a lot of veterans struggle with creating momentum and traction out of the uniform. So how did you find traction and rhythm as you got out of the uniform? Like I know you mentioned before that you were applying for college about a year, 6 months out. You can touch more on that, or how did you find that rhythm out of the uniform, brother?
I'd say it's just kind of depends on what you do. And here's the thing, it's not going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy.
Right.
If you want easy, then, just sit around and wait for life to happen. That's not going to work. So I guess what I'm getting at is, I just want to make sure people know, yeah, it's not easy. This is hard. You're going to sacrifice time. You're going to sacrifice sleep. But what do you really want? For me, my goal, isn't to be some multi-billionaire. I'm not going to complain if I am, but my goal is just, I want financial freedom. I want the ability to be a dad one day and be a dad, not be stressed, or to travel the world, or to not have to worry. I think that's one of my things too. And some of my motivation is I have some people in my life that are in those situations. And it's been a good example that I don't want to be like that. And I want to support them, and I want to give back, and I want to help them. I think, one thing that's helped me is, out of all my goals too, a lot of it is it's some way impacting other people's lives. It's somehow helping other people's lives. And I think whatever you're doing, if it's going to impact other people's lives or make their lives better, or just increase the comfortability of their life, that's what's worth doing for me. That's why I loved the veterans program, helping those veterans get jobs. And now with Lend It, it's going to put money back into our economy and help the middle class. And for myself, helping my family and giving back to my parents. I'd say it just depends on what are you comfortable with. If you're comfortable with being average, there's nothing wrong with that. And we all have different goals or priorities, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're not comfortable, do something about it. You're the only one who can. I know I'm kind of broad in my answers. I hope that helps.
Brother, it's great, man. And we're getting some good feedback on the audience that's watching. I mean, Ben Keloy said, follow your curiosity. You just put that. So you're dropping some gold in here, man. So thank you for that. So I want to kind of shift gears, man. You're talking about, convenience and how the world is starting to come in, kind of unconsciously falling into this convenience, immediate gratifying buying habits, consumption, and stuff like that. And I want to transition into this vision, Lend It, man. This thing is disrupting the sharing economy industry, brother. I mean, the biggest thing I wrote down, and I circled it like 3 times before we went live, is find items you need but don't want to buy, right? And as we were sharing before this, I've been procrastinating buying a power drill for the longest because I don't want to go buy it because I'm a minimalist. I like to still live out of my sea bag, and I would love to start renting things and actually renting out my stuff to actually make some passive income, brother. So tell us what came up of Lend It, what's your vision, why you started it. Tell us more about this movement, brother.
Yeah, it's the most exciting thing I've ever been a part of. The most challenging and most exciting thing I've ever been a part of. So the way it started out too, I actually had a friend visiting San Diego. And like all of us, want to take him to La Jolla, to the coves. So I really wanted to go snorkeling, kayaking, and I didn't have that. So all day I was going to companies' websites. So right now, if you want to rent a kayak, you type in kayak rental La Jolla, and you usually go to the first website that pops up. But I'm stingy with my money, and I wanted to know my options. And I also wanted to know if the kayaks were even available to rent. So I went through one company's website, saw their prices, went to another company, etc. Well, that night, my neighbor and I are having a beer, and I told him the situation and said, it's kind of a pain. And he's like, well, I have 2 kayaks and snorkeling gear you can borrow. And then, I said, well, that's going to save me a lot of rental money. And I appreciate that. And he's like, well, I'd rent that out for $10 a day if I could. And then we thought, like, what if there was an app for that? And so then researched it that night, and I couldn't sleep. It was just kind of like the light bulb. And then, and then I was like, what would I call it? What would I call it? Lend It. Why sell it when you can lend it? And so then I looked into it, and PwC actually did a study on the sharing economy. In 2014, the sharing economy was valued at $15 billion. And by 2025, it's going to be $335 billion. So it's growing at a rapid rate, and that's because of our society is more understanding of this concept, more willing to share the items we own. And also, just like I experienced, though, the businesses, we don't want to cut them out of the equation. We want to ensure that the businesses are part of this and can grow with us. We want to basically, they're having a hard time keeping up with the ever-growing technology society. And we want to create a platform. There's no price line for rental businesses. So as you said, what Lend It does is enables users to post items, find items for profit. You make your own prices, your cancellation policies, and the businesses, we actually charge less. So we just take a percentage per transaction. But if you're a verified rental business, it's less for you. I'm really excited for this. It's like you said, it helps us to not have to store. It's freedom from ownership. It really is.
Yeah, that's awesome, brother. And for someone like me, I love not having to hoard stuff over time and be able to kind of keep that ecosystem around the people that are closest to me. It's more efficiently, it saves time, and it helps me keep money into my pocket that can go towards my passions, which I love, man. And one thing that I saw too, man, through looking at this idea that you created is you're creating accountability systems as well, because the first thing I thought about was like, okay, what if they don't give my drill back or something like that? So can you touch more about the security aspect of it as well?
Yeah, it's funny. That's probably the most asked question. So
Yeah.
don't worry.
Yeah.
That's been in the thoughts since I founded it. Yeah. So we understand, these are your items, these are your assets, and you want to continue to make money on them, especially for the businesses. The good thing is we didn't have to recreate the wheel. There's businesses that have been doing this for years and years, and you look into that process. Now, the one thing that we are doing different, as enabling everybody to be a lender, every item, renter, and lender have a rating. So everyone reserves a rating and the item itself. So that way, if you have 50 different items, your ratings, we didn't want you to be changed on different item experiences. So you have your own personal rating as an owner, you have it as a renter, and your item has a rating itself. So that's really important accountability. You don't have to approve a rental request. So if I send a request to rent your bike, you're going to see Andrew Adrian wants to rent your bike. It'll show my rating. You can say eject or reject or accept. And you set your own cancellation policies as well. And then we also have late fees. So if you're more than 15 minutes late, you as the lender can initiate a late fee. If they're more than 60 minutes, it doubles. And then we do have damage protection and theft policy. So the biggest thing is we are trying to build a community. So we do promote that the users figured out amongst themselves if they can, and if they can't, that's when we step in and handle the case appropriately. So we have theft, all of that. After 24 hours, we have steps to take. You have to file a claim, but we have all of that covered.
That's awesome, brother, because I know that the viewers that see this are going to be curious on that behalf, but it really is like an Airbnb, but for lending and renting property, personal items. I mean, but kind of like what I want to kind of illustrate to the ambitious vet nation here is this is pretty much like, think about the stuff that you've accumulated, personal items and stuff like that depreciate over time. Now you can actually get your return on investment on these items. That's kind of what I see it, brother, right?
Exactly. We all have these assets sitting around, for example, I have 5 surfboards. If I put one up for $10 a day, in 10 days, that's $100. Yeah. And the thing is, especially in San Diego, we have 34.5 million tourists on average per year. And those tourists spend $9.9 billion to our economy every year. Wow. So that's just tourism, and then we have our 3.3 million residents. So, and we're not just doing items, we have wedding rental companies already partnered with us, sailboat companies, kayaks, all kinds of things. We're really tuxedos, purses, vacuum cleaners, power drills, all that different stuff. And I think, on average, it's pretty interesting. 300,000 items on average are in each American household, and only 80% of them are used more than once.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah, so wow. There's some really crazy statistics you can look into the minimalist movement that they found, and it really supports this. That a lot of our stuff you don't even know you have it until you have to find it.
Right. That's awesome, man. I love what you're doing. I think you're like I said, man, this is disrupting an industry. I'm happy that a Marine Corps vet founded this. To be completely honest, it's just like us founding our organization in Toon Tavern back in 1775. It's funny how you founded it off of a beer, brother. So, but the last question I have before we Oscar Mike out of here, man, is if you were to put yourself back 6 months out from being out of the uniform, okay, what would be 3 things looking back with the wisdom and the experiences that you have now that you would execute on getting out of the uniform?
Man, only 3? No. First off, I'd say don't jump the gun. It's really excited. I mean, it's really easy to get excited and to jump into a decision or to not do the research. So I wouldn't say be too cautious, but do your research. That's one thing that's hurt me sometimes is I'm over trusting, or I take someone's word, but I don't ask for references or who they've worked with or past experience. So I'd really say do your research is a big one. Second thing, even though I believe I do a good job at this, but just utilize your resources. I don't think vets understand how many resources are available. It's unreal. And also too, I mean, Google. I mean, we have no right to complain in 2017 at all. Our parents, when they needed to know something, they had to go to the library. Us, I get on my phone, programs to help with this or entrepreneurship veteran programs. That's all you got to Google and they'll come up. Do your research. And then the third one, I apologize, this is hard. I'd say, I think just logistics. I know I keep saying planning, and a lot of this is really similar, but I just can't explain to people how much that'll save you in the long run. Do it yourself. That's a big thing. Do it yourself. If you can do it yourself, do it yourself. If you don't have to pay someone else to do it, or you don't have to get someone else to do it, no one's ever going to do it the way you want to do it. If you're a visionary like myself, or you have something in my mind, you'll ask my team. I probably drive them crazy because I just know how I want something done, and I have to do it that way. And it'll drive me crazy if I don't. But also be open to suggestions, and that's how teams work. And that's one thing I just got to say, a big shout out to my team. Pick the right people. That surround yourself with the right people. That's a huge one, because you got to think about it. If you're around people who don't want to succeed in life, what's going to motivate you to do so? If you're in a race and the racer right next to you, you guys keep coming up like this, it motivates you, makes you run faster. But if you're way ahead of everybody, you're going to take your time and finish the race, right? Put yourself around people that you compete with that are also working hard in life and trying to succeed. And, you become who you surround yourself with. And, I have a team now of 11 people, with a majority of us veterans, and, fantastic individuals, really are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Andrew, man, I just want to thank you for being the gritty, ambitious veteran that you are, man. Thanks for dropping some golden grenades here, man. The biggest thing I just got from what you just shared and the wisdom that you brought, man, is with a big vision and clarity brings high execution, brother. And I think that's why your organization is growing very, very quickly. I'm looking forward to being a consumer for your product. I think it's going to help me have more efficiency time and help bring more money into my pocket and keep it in. And brother, I just want to thank you for joining the Ambitious Vet today, brother.
No, I really appreciate it. And Lindit's available on Apple and Android, and we have a new, brand new version without any bugs. Our beta's on right now, but this new version coming out, I'm stoked. It's so fast. It has a lot of new features. I think you guys are really going to really enjoy it.
Awesome. And I'll actually post your website in the comments below. So guys, definitely look for that. Guys, until next time, hold the vision and trust the process. Take care, guys.
Hope you enjoyed episode 7 with Andrew Adrian. Now, guys, before we go ahead and conclude this, I want to point out one key thing that he was quoted in saying in this interview. And it's quoted, "Be mindful with how you leave people in every situation or interaction, because you never know what will come from it." That is a very wise quote, guys. And I really want you guys to be looking in your everyday life from here on forward on every conversation. Are you making the most out of it? Any veteran that I'm coaching nowadays, I always tell them, in any conversation, listen more than you talk, and listen for commitments and what people are saying. And if you can find out a way on how you can get to people's commitments as fast as possible, help them get to those as fast as possible, that's how you start creating a credible brand, but ultimately a tremendous amount of value in yourself out of the uniform. So guys, that's my major charge for you this week. Go out and make the most out of every conversation, and just listen more than you talk in your conversations moving forward, guys. Now, if you guys just received one golden grenade in this episode, I request one thing for sure. Go and implement it in your life immediately. Second, share the episode with any ambitious vet out there that's just seeking the secret formula to success out of the uniform, kind of like I was, and I'm sure a lot of you guys that are listening to this are seeking, is what are the light bulb moments, what are the strategies, what are the processes, what are the systems top performing veterans are utilizing? Well, share that with your friends. Be the person that shares value, not takes value. And last thing, guys, go and rate and review this show on iTunes and Stitcher. We're one of the top 5 military leadership podcasts right now, and we want to make sure that we stick there. And you guys are pretty much our team in that, guys. So also your feedback is the life or death of this show. So make sure you go and ask any questions or send us any feedback directly to me. And my email is choffman@vettrainingandcoaching.com. So guys, we know we're warrior made, but now it's time for us to be passion driven. Let's go.